Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for my April bullet journal setup. Going straight in with my cover page, I'm drawing the shape of a Polaroid using a black Sakura fine liner. Inside the Polaroid, I'm drawing some daisies. To draw these daisies, I just drew a circle and filled it out with smaller circles. I then added some petals with a bit of a dip in each petal rather than a smooth line. These flowers were hugely inspired by My Life in a Bullet, who did a really nice daisy theme a few years ago. Although mine could be daisies, or really they could pass for being any other summery flower. I don't really mind, I just wanted a warm, spring-like feeling from the theme. If you wanted to make them look more like daisies, then aim for narrower petals that are roughly the same width all the way through. Or you can just call them spring wildflowers and not put any thought into it like I did. We're not really after perfection with bullet journaling anyway. I added some stems and lines in the petals to add a bit of detail. I went in with a 0.7mm nib peach acrylograph pen to fill in the background. At this point, I hadn't really decided whether I wanted to fill it with two colours or one, so I coloured in the bottom half first before making a decision. A little reminder that if you want to buy some acrylograph pens or anything from Archer & Olive, you can use my code RAKSHA10 for 10% off, and it also helps me out a little too. Once I was halfway up with the peachy orange, I paused to picture it all in orange and decided that I'd like to introduce a second colour. So I coloured the top half in with a pink acrylograph pen. I love this colour combination, it just feels really warm and cheerful. Perfect for what I want to see in April. You could easily colour the background in with any markers that you have or a Tombow brush pen, which would be the quickest way to do it. Or if you want more of this paint-like effect, then a paint marker like an acrylograph pen works well, and you can take your time over it and just enjoy the therapeutic process of colouring. I wrote up April in the Polaroid in a stretched out font. Finally, I touched up some of the edges where the black had faded under the paint pen, and I added some tiny circles as a finishing touch. Next to this, like I've been doing all year, I picked one of the reminders from my reminders page that I set up in my 2021 setup video. Trust your instincts. Part of this for me is also trusting that I'm exactly where I should be, which is something that I heard in a Yoga with Adriene session, and I found a lot of comfort in hearing that. If you watch my channel regularly, you know how much I appreciate simplicity, so I won't be drawing Polaroids in all of the spreads. Some of them will just have a few daisies scattered around the spread, with the pink and peach to add a pop of cheerful colour. Finally, I didn't really like how many circles there were in the Polaroid, so I covered some up with the peach pen and just kept the ones at the top. Another thing I like about these pens, you can easily cover things up if you change your mind about something. Over on the next page, I used my grid spacing ruler to divide the page into two rows and drew a faint horizontal line across the page. I'm going to use this faint line as a guide to draw a rectangle above and below it on both pages, with some white space around it. I drew my rectangles with a black fine liner. These spaces are going to be dedicated to looking back on the previous month. There's a lot of stuff going on at the moment, so my head's a bit busy and I'm struggling to think about what I'm doing. So rather than going straight in with my monthly log with my monthly goals and tasks, I thought it'd be helpful to look back at March, the good and the bad, before moving on to April. I drew my daisies in the top left corner and bottom right and added the pop of colour in the background. The first prompt for the review is to simply describe March. What was happening in my personal life, with my family, and with my business. I can also put in feelings or even just write random words. Then I have what went well. I think it'll be nice to think about what I enjoyed and what felt like was going well. Next, what did I learn? And finally, what could be better for next month? I think this will help my head get ready for the next month, instead of just carrying over all of the same baggage from the previous month. Next, I have my monthly log. I used my grid spacing ruler to divide the page into 2 columns. On one side of the page, I wrote up April with a Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen. On the left-hand side of the page, I'm listing out the days of the month to put in my events and key dates. The right-hand page is for goals. I put the header on the left part of the page, and on the right I decided to draw 3 Polaroids hanging up for me to add my 3 goals for the month. I added the daisies on the outer part of the Polaroid this time, so my goal can be written inside. You can also go for a simpler monthly log layout by just putting some daisies in the corner and writing up your goals in a list above it. It's useful being able to go either way, depending on how creative you want to get. I coloured the Polaroids in peach and pink and then peach again. I also like to highlight the weekends so I can see each week clearly in the list. So I used a Tombow brush pen to do this, because it's a bit easier to highlight with those. Next up, my Simple Things list. I'm using my Simple Things stencil to lay out the list. All supplies are linked in the description. I wrote up the header with my fine liner and then started to add some daisies within the circle in the middle, leaving some space to write April as well. The bottom half of the circle I coloured in peach and the top in pink. I grabbed the 3mm nib pens for this to speed up the colouring a bit, which made it a bit easier, and I just needed to do the edges around the flowers with the 0.7mm nib. My Simple Things list for the month is: write up a poem that you like, bake hot cross buns, sing a song that you love out loud, freely and passionately, enjoy a nice picnic outside, go for a bike ride on a sunny day. Next, I have my growth list. In my March plan with me, I explain that I'm setting up a growth list each month with what I'm going to read and classes that I plan to take on Skillshare. And this video is actually sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people to explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and just get lost in creativity. What I really like about Skillshare is that there's a class for pretty much anything you could be interested in. For me, it's creativity, mindfulness, and productivity. Last month, the class I took was Instagram illustration, Make Shareable Art for Social Change by Danielle Koch. In the class, Danielle explains how she uses art to tell stories about things that she really cares about and the process that goes behind it all. I really liked how she turns injustice that she witnesses into informative artwork that's positive and hopeful. And she shares her full step-by-step process for doing that. I found it really inspiring, and it got me thinking about how I can express complex thoughts and ideas through shareable art, and it seemed so much more achievable after watching this 1-hour class. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click on the link in the description will get a free trial of premium membership, so you can explore your creativity and take this class, and it won't cost you anything during the trial. The platform is curated for learning, so there aren't any ads, and they're always launching new premium classes, so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. If you decide to continue after the trial, like I did, it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. So I have my space for the 3 things that I'll read, learn and do in April for growth. And I decided to add some of the daisies to the bottom left corner with the blocks of colour in the background. In my monthly planning video for March, I filled out all of these spreads, including this one, with the book that I was going to read and the class that I planned to take. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do another monthly planning video this month, or if you haven't seen them, check out my March one and let me know if you're interested in seeing this part of the process. Finally, we have my first weekly spread for March. I am of course using my grid space ruler to set this up nice and fast, dividing the page into thirds. To give me some extra space, I'm adding a column to the sides that is also a third of the page. On the left hand side, I put in April and a mini calendar for April. I added some small daisies in the bottom corners of the page. And then put a thin strip of colour going across the daisies, so it kind of looks like it's going behind them. I'll add my goals for the week in the left-hand column and my tasks on the right-hand side. Finally, I added some thin strips of peach and then pink to the rectangles, which will be my days of the week. These pages will be filled up with my tasks throughout the week, so I've kept the doodles minimal so it doesn't feel too cluttered. I will of course share any other spreads that I do throughout the month over on Instagram, so follow me there to see more. If you're new to my channel, I've got a whole playlist full of useful bullet journal content, so feel free to check that out. I'll link it in the description box. Here's the final flip through. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over on Instagram or in my next video.